Now here comes Mr. David Plouffe. You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Cola, and what's possible out there. And I'd start by stating that Barack Obama would not have been elected president of the United States in all likelihood without technology. And that's the first time you can ever say that, certainly in American political history. Because you have to understand, when he ran for president, most people in America didn't know who he was. Most political observers didn't give us any chance. I'll use a term that may not be familiar here politically, but he was considered what's called a political outsider, meaning he didn't have a lot of political support from elected officials or people who've been in politics a long time. And so the only chance we had to even run a good campaign, much less win, was to have average Americans, nurses, teachers, students, get involved in our campaign. And the only way we could do that really was through the internet. It was for people to come to BarackObama.com and say, I'd like to support Barack Obama. I'd like to give him money. I'd like to give him time. I'd like to help him. And if we hadn't had the ability to corral that, we wouldn't have gotten out of the gate, much less won. So the campaign we built, which became a very powerful campaign, 4 million people gave us money. In our politics, candidates have to raise money to mount their campaigns. And so the internet made that possible. 13 million people got involved in the campaign. Millions of people volunteering. None of that would have been possible without the internet. And you have to understand, so for us in 2008, it was the internet. It was people largely on their computers, at home, some at work. We did probably hurt productivity in companies. Going online, going on social networks, reading emails that we sent out, videos that we sent out. Mobile technology in our campaign played a role, but it was a small role. We were able to give people basic information. So let's pick a city, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or Los Angeles, California. We could text you and say Barack Obama or Michelle Obama is going to be in Los Angeles in 4 days. Or we could send a text out to people in a state and say the voter registration deadline is happening in a week. So it was a way to get basic information. That's going to be a big change in 2012 when Barack Obama is running for re-election, and throughout the course of this decade. Our politics in America, as they are in so many places in the world, are going to gravitate more and more to these devices, where in America the penetration of computers is higher than it is in most places. Most people in America have laptops or desktops at home. But more and more of them are choosing to do most of the things they used to use computers for on their mobile device, as is happening in all over the world. And that's going to happen at warp speed. And it's going to transform our politics because you can reach people. They don't have to be tethered at a desk when they're walking down the street, of course never in your car when driving, but you can reach them with a message and have them take action and have them share that. The kind of campaign we could have run in 2008 if people had been spending most of their computing time on a mobile device as compared to a computer would have been just enormous. So it's going to transform the way we practice politics in a fundamental way. You think about it, in America anyway, the first time that television played a big role in our political life was in 1960 when John F. Kennedy was elected president. And that was the first time that our presidential candidates debated each other on television. And what's interesting is most people who listened to that debate on radio, the way debates had been done previously, thought Richard Nixon won that debate. But those who watched it on TV overwhelmingly thought John F. Kennedy won it because of the way he presented himself, because of his confidence. So think about that. That's only 50 years ago was the first time that TV affected politics in America. And the TV's only been around for, 70 years? Now, in the scale of humankind, that's not very long, but think about it. Compared to the pace of technological change in the digital world, it was glacial. I remember I've been running and involved in campaigns in America for about 23 years. I remember in 1996, I was running a campaign there. We didn't have email. We only used computers for lists. Very few people had cell phones. When I talk to young people in America today about that, they think I was running around with the dinosaurs. They can't even fathom that. I'd say, yeah, we used to have these things called pagers, and someone would call you, and you'd have to pull off the side of the road and use a payphone. And they can't even imagine a world like that, okay? But somehow it worked. I prefer this world, but somehow it worked. But think about that. 12 years after that campaign I talked about, technology was at the heart of electing a president in my country. And I think that change is only going to rapidly happen, even more. So that by 2016, 2020, not just our politics, but our economy and so much of how we live our lives is going to be centered on mobile devices. So, and I think in terms of innovation, we all have to understand this. TV was slow. First we had TV, and it was black and white, then it became color, then eventually it was satellite or cable. That happened over a long period of time. The technological transformation we're undergoing here is happening at just warp speed. Now, the Barack Obama's campaign seems like it was 100 years ago. So I don't want to spend a lot of time reliving that with you, but I will mention some of the ways technology elected him president. I said, first of all, it was the main way people who were interested in him could let us know that they wanted to support him. They didn't have to call a phone number. They didn't have to wait for Barack Obama to come to their city. They could let us know. And we could put them to work. It was the way so many people learned about him in the first place. They'd say, I heard about this interesting guy, Barack Obama. I'll Google him. I'll watch his speeches. And then what would happen? They would say, hey, I kind of like this. I'm going to share this with my family, my friends, my colleagues. And so that's how the campaign was built, kind of